that banner?
Oh yeah. All right. Welcome everybody to the F1 podcast of Sports and Sadaji's friends. We have a beaming Aniket here. Look at the bloody smile on his
Still we
face.
rise. Still
Look
we
at look at
rise.
look at the look at the smile on his face, man.
My back.
Yeah,
My goat is back.
great weekend for hashtag Team LH, isn't it, Aniket? Uh, it was a rainy British Grand Prix, which is, I mean, it's Britain. It's always raining. It's always pissing down for
Yeah.
us to year. But it was actually a very exciting race. We obviously started with qualifying. George Russell was on board, right? George Russell was pole. Hamilton was second. So it was a McLaren, not McLaren. What am I
Mercedes
saying?
one too.
Sorry, McLaren and Red Bull. It was a Mercedes. It was a Mercedes front row lockout, and then with Lando and Max close behind in on the second row, and oh yeah, fun fact: the fastest Ferrari in qualifying was a Haas of Nico Hulkenberg. Uh, but yeah, it was a forgettable qualifying for Ferrari, which signed in seventh and Leclerc in 11th. But then, yeah, enough of qualifying. The race started. We had Russell and Hamilton on the front row, and the start was pretty much uneventful. Uh, Russell and Lewis maintained their positions. Max actually had a good overtake in the first couple of turns over Lando. He almost got one over Lewis too, but
Yeah.
Lewis held on to second. And then, yeah, take it away, Aniket. The
Yeah. I
race,
mean,
the topsy turvy turns. Like there's so much drama in the race, right? One of the best races this season yet. I mean, keeping it bias for Lewis Hamilton aside, it was still, I think, one of the best races this season with all the drama on the track.
oh yeah, for sure, definitely. For me, it was the best race of the season. I think we got a lot of action. We got a lot of overtaking as well. We had a situation where we could probably have had five different cars winning the race. So if we talk about the race itself, we it was like a dry wet dry kind of a race. So you had dry conditions in the beginning, then you had a little bit of wet conditions in between, and then back to dry. And so what happened in the earlier part of the race was, as you said, the Mercedes was 1-2. They were comfortably in the lead with Max a distant third. The McLarens obviously, fell behind a little bit, like they generally do in the initial phase of the races. But as the tires, degrade, and as the stints come to an end, the McLaren gets quicker,
Oh yeah,
which is kind
I
of
don't know
their
what to do with that
superpower
car.
for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we saw was the both the McLarens going past Max easily. Max did not put up much of a challenge. To be honest, this was the first time in so many races that I've seen Max Verstappen be helpless while
The Red
defending
Bull
from someone.
out of sorts, right? The Red Bull looks completely out of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely come to the team by team discussion just after this quick review of this. But yeah, definitely Max and Red Bull were not at their best this race, and at least in the initial part of the race. So once the McLaren got past, now it was just a matter of time as to when they would catch the Mercedes. But right at the front, Lewis and George were having their own battle, and then Lewis got in front of George when it started raining and the track conditions became a little wet. So Lewis's specialty obviously is one of the greatest wet weather drivers of all time, and his experience proved, because he could, get past George pretty easily. I think on the straight, long straight where the DRS opens. So that was obviously Lewis getting past George, and then the McLarens definitely, at the end of the stint caught up with the Mercedes, and then Lando overtook both George and Lewis, and took the lead himself. And then I think Piastri did the same, and suddenly became a McLaren 1-2. So from a Mercedes 1-2, it became a McLaren 1-2 within 5 laps. So that's how the race currently changed. And then the rain got heavier, and it was time to officially go on inters. And not when Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez went on inters at the wrong time and ruined their races. So now was like probably around lap 25 was when the rain started coming down more heavier, and then I think everyone had to go on inter. So McLaren and Mercedes were running pretty close to each other, and we saw Mercedes double stack with their drivers, but McLaren did not. They left Piastri out for another lap, which kind of ruined his race. So now you had a Lando Lewis 1-2 at the front, and Max Verstappen, who had pitted a lap earlier, came ahead of George, so he kind of undercut George in that stint, and I think Carlos was running fifth at that time. So a few laps later, I think George retired with a water leak issue or something like that. We did not get the
Yeah.
full, you
Are you happy
know.
that Russell retired?
Obviously, very disappointing for George in his home days. After qualifying on pole, and then being overtaken by Lewis, and then to not finishing. So kind of like a very good to a bad weekend in the end. But if we come back to the front, Lando and Lewis were having their own battle, and as the rain subsided and the track conditions became getting dry, it was a time of who goes first and who blinks first in the pit stop. And this time it was Mercedes. So Lewis pitted a lap before Lando, put on the soft tires, and then Lando came into the pits a lap after him, and he overshot his pit box, so that lost him a few seconds. And he put on the soft tires as well to cover Lewis. He had an option to put on a fresh set of mediums, but instead he chose soft. So we can talk about McLaren's strategy probably after this. And so Lewis came out in front of Lando after that round of pit stops. And what happened was just a three-way battle with Max suddenly getting back into the game after putting on hard tires. So I think 5 laps before the end, Max got past Lando, and he was off to the races with against Lewis. So it was Lewis versus Max again, like 2021 again. But Lewis, held on to his lead. He mastered, or I mean, the master of tire management, which he already is. He did that again with the soft tire, and finally, after 2.5 freaking years,
Yep.
Sir Lewis Hamilton wins the race. And what a better place to do it than the British Grand Prix?
Yep. I think maybe Max would have caught him if there are a few more laps, but obviously Mercedes would probably adjust their strategy too as well. Maybe put on the hards if there are a few more laps. But yeah, definitely. It was, yeah. I think Lewis will be very happy to get his win again, right? Maybe I mean we'll see how the rest of the season pans out, but even if he doesn't win again this season, it feels like he has a nice farewell win at with Mercedes, right? Last season, last British Grand Prix, got his record-breaking ninth win at a single circuit. So previously, this was shared by Lewis Hamilton winning 8 times at Silverstone and Michael Schumacher winning 8 times. Where was that? Spa or
Hungary, I think.
Hungary? Right? Yeah. Uh, so yeah, now Lewis Hamilton breaks another one of Schumacher's records and goes solo at the top.
Yeah.
And it was a very emotional time for Lewis. His mom was there,
The entire family
and
was there, I think.
yeah. Oh, Schumacher won 8 times at France. Wow. Okay,
At
that's
France.
random.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, great win for Lewis. And yeah, if talking about Lewis and the other elephant in the room, Ferrari. We'll come back to McLaren and Red Bull later. But I want to about Ferrari because obviously that's where Lewis is going next season, right? And this race was a really disappointing one for Ferrari. Carlos Sainz finished fifth, and Charles Leclerc finished 14th. Obviously, that's partly due to a Ferrari blunder in strategy. They they brought Leclerc on too early for Inters, right? It seems like they played it with Science it was good, right? Like Science came in the right time, and Science race didn't get affected much, right? I mean, sure, he was fifth because the Ferrari was a truck, but not because of bad strategy, right? Um, but also, if you see, drivers also make calls, for when to pit
Yeah.
for tires. Right? It's not the team exclusively. So the fact that Leclerc even agreed to pit that early for Inters, right? When nobody else was pitting, right? And he didn't he pit after Perez, right? Like, what the hell was going on,
Yeah,
right?
about a lap or two, like after Perez. So basically,
Yeah,
both of them made the same mistake of going way
right.
too early.
Oh, sorry, no, okay, we are wrong. They both pit on the same lap.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, the thing is, like, if Charles ever wants to win a championship, right? You can't be blaming Ferrari's strategy team all the time, right? Like in this case, when you decide when to go on inters, the driver gets a lot of say because you're actually the guy driving on the track, and you know how the track is evolving, right? Where it's dry, where it's wet. So I think, yeah, I mean, we saw this even in Montreal, right? When Charles Leclerc pit for slicks too early
Yeah,
and
too
paid the
early.
was just slipping all over, and he comes back for inters, and then few laps again he comes back for slicks. So it's like two wasted pit stops. And same thing happened, this race too. He came to a few laps too early for inters, kept losing time, and obviously, as you know, the inters on a dry track is terrible, right? The tire just degrades way too much. So after the whole field pit for inters, he had to pit for a fresh set of inters once again, right? So that's 20 seconds for a pit stop, and then he lost 10-15 seconds, I think, each lap. He lost a lot of time, right? So
Yeah.
like, he got like, you know, off the field. So now, obviously, I think Lewis at Ferrari wouldn't do this. He would just tell, his engineer on the team today, like, are you crazy? My tires are definitely not gone this time. And he'll just, probably stay out. But, even keeping that aside, Ferrari, I mean, a lot of things happened in Ferrari this weekend, right? They they undid their upgrades. So I think they gone back to the Imola setup, right?
Yeah.
They had a
Old
massive
spec.
upgrade. Yep. I think Imola was their first kind of minor upgrade, right? They bought like I think 20% of parts.
Yeah.
Spain was a major upgrade, which completely has backfired for them. So they went back to the Imola spec after FP2, right? They put the Imola spec in FP3 and neither driver had enough time to practice. I mean, Charles went out in Q2. Um, so obviously, sure, I mean they couldn't push the car, a lot this weekend. But again, begs the question: what the hell is going on Ferrari, right? And like you said earlier, is Lewis Hamilton going to regret his move to Ferrari, right? Uh, and obviously, I don't think it's just about the money for Lewis, right? Lewis has more money than God. He really doesn't care, about the money, right? He wants that
Yeah.
eight title to beat that last record of Michael Schumacher before he, drives off into the
I mean,
sunset. And
basically his and Michael's tied record.
yeah, exactly. That's the last tie record, right? He has beaten Michael in
Yeah.
poles, race wins at a single track, fastest time. He's beaten a whole host of records, except the titles, right? And uh, Lewis obviously wants an eight title, right, to kind of cement his spot as the undisputed goat of Formula One. And Lewis obviously made the calculation, and Mercedes is not up for it, right? Which was a good calculation maybe at the beginning of the season,
Hmm.
but now with Mercedes actually having won a race and then looking very strong over the last few races, right? What do you
Yeah.
think, Aniket? Is he going to regret?
I I mean, it's obviously too early to, uh say that he's gonna definitely regret it or something like that. Obviously, he
Correct.
made a very calculated decision for extending his career too. Firstly, we got like some reports today that the contract he signed with Ferrari is a 3-year deal. That'll run up till 2027. So, firstly, he got a security of his long-term career with a top team in F1, which he was not getting with Mercedes. Mercedes were only giving him 1+1 deal basically. So that kind of is not at not at the par of what
Yeah,
Ferrari is giving. Or
pretty
powers.
much. He's getting double what Charles Leclerc is getting paid.
Yeah, I'm.
Okay, while we wait for Aniket to come back. Yeah, but I was basically saying, just to kind of close on the thought that Lewis Hamilton is getting double the money of Charles Leclerc. It's reported that Leclerc is on 50 million and Hamilton is on 100 million. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a gamble for Lewis. Obviously, very calculated move. Um, but again, that's the thing, right? Will Lewis regret? Obviously, the other thing is also that over this weekend, or actually, I think it was this week or early this week, right? Ferrari announced that their chassis man Enrico Cardil has left with immediate effect, right? So he was originally supposed to leave in October, but he left. He's leaving in immediate effect, and he's signing with Aston Martin. So I'm guessing that's why he's leaving immediately rather than wait till October. But Ferrari is getting the guy from Mercedes to head the chassis division. I mean, the interim obviously they'll report to Fred Vasseur, but Ferrari is hiring the guy from Mercedes to lead their chassis division, right? And it has also been reported that you know Lewis really wanted, I forget, I think his name is Loic something something, but yeah. Uh, while I look that up, it has been reported that Lewis really wanted, him to come, right? So I think I am expecting that a lot of such key changes to happen. Loic Serra, yes, that's the guy from Mercedes. But I think, and we have Aniket back. Hey,
Yep.
Aniket.
There's some
Yeah,
technical difficulties, but yeah, I think we on the topic of Lewis whether he would regret joining Ferrari. So just if
just
I
to
could,
just to
I
catch
think
up on
yeah,
saying before you continue your thought. I'm just saying that Lewis is getting 100 million a year in those 3 years compared to Charles' 50 million. Now, obviously, money is, like we said, money is not his main motivation, but obviously, long-term security, and also he's going to be Ferrari's brand ambassador, which is going to be very, very weird after basically practically growing up with Mercedes. But
yeah,
I guess he's doing the opposite of what Schumacher did. Schumacher went Ferrari to work, and he's doing the reverse. But yeah, the other thing I was talking about that is that personnel changes at Ferrari, right? So this week, Ferrari announced that Enrico Cardil is leaving with immediate effect. He was slated to be replaced actually in October by Loic Serra, who's from Mercedes. But I think Cardil found a job at Aston Martin, and Ferrari has graciously let him leave early. And chassis is going to be with Fred Vasseur for the next 3 months. But what I was getting at is that it has been reported that Lewis Hamilton really wanted Loic Serra at the team at Ferrari, and I think I also saying, and you can take over after this, but I was basically saying that I mean, obviously we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but what it feels to me, personally, and a lot of speculation about this, it feels that Charles Leclerc is not very assertive on what or how he wants the team to change, right? You see him being very reactive, and like many times you see Carlos Sainz even being more assertive on the radio with strategy and pit stops, right? You generally don't see Leclerc being that assertive, right? Or you never hear any stories in the media of how Leclerc is helping car development, right? For example, when Ferrari had Kimi Raikkonen, or especially Sebastian Vettel, right? There are always so many stories of how Vettel is going deep into car development and
yeah,
helping the engineers at the factory and all the other folks develop the car. We know Schumacher also did a lot, right? Schumacher, Braun, and Todd did a lot of development with the car in the 90s before Ferrari became a juggernaut in early 2000s, right? So to me, it feels that Ferrari getting Lewis Hamilton, that is one other reason, because we saw what Schumacher did with Mercedes, right? Schumacher never won a race with Mercedes. Nico Rosberg outdrove him, but
yeah.
a lot of credit is given to Schumacher for Mercedes' long, spell of dominance, 8 years, right? So yeah, that's. I mean, you can obviously take back, and completely previous thought, and again, yeah, comment on this.
Yeah, obviously the main reason for Ferrari wanting Lewis is the car development aspect as well. They know how
Yeah,
brilliant Lewis is at developing a car over a period of time, and that's what he's done in Mercedes throughout the season as well. He's given his inputs based on last season very terrible campaign, and that's the one of the reasons I would say why.
not even just
Sorry.
last season. Even 22 was terrible,
Yeah.
and
So
and
basically,
Lewis Hamilton very vocal that they don't listen to him, right? Maybe that
exactly.
change.
So it did seem like they listened to him, this season for this or this season's iteration of the W15. So that's why it looks like a better car than it was last season. Obviously, Lewis is not the only reason. You got James Allison also coming back,
Of
and
course, yeah.
finally Mercedes do have got the I mean Mercedes have got the act together, but definitely Lewis's inputs have significantly contributed to a better car than the last 2 years preceding this one. So that's obviously what Ferrari want Lewis to do for them as well when it comes to 2025 and even long term when it comes to the new regulation in 2026. So, along with that, his marketing thing side of things also is something you can never take your eye off. He's going to bring in a lot of brands with him and and that would be an extremely big financial boost for Ferrari as a brand as well. So you got a few options, but let's just come back to the main topic, main question, which was, will Lewis regret his move? Again, I think it's too early to say. It's gonna be something like when we're gonna ask this question to ourselves again in the middle of next season at this time. Has Lewis regretted his move? And then probably we could have an answer at that time, because right now you don't know what car is gonna be from now to the rest of the season and in 2025 first
Right.
half, and the same with Mercedes as well. So maybe Ferrari does have a better second half of the season than they have over the last couple of races, and then we could all say, oh, Lewis's move is a master stroke or something along those lines. So let's just
Yeah.
wait and see how it
Mhm.
goes.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah, I
think
think
we've
this.
spoken a lot about Ferrari now, so we need to get to the other teams.
I think just to close on that, I think this question will be asked. I mean, at least for the next 4 or 5 years, right? If you remember Schumacher's second stint with Mercedes, when he basically came back just to reunite with Ross Brawn after Mercedes bought the team, right? And Mercedes was basically garbage, right? Those first few years when Schumacher and Rosberg were there, and this question was asked all the time, right? Like didn't Ferrari want to give a contract to Schumacher? I mean, he won 5 championships with them, and I mean, Ferrari had a pretty good car back then, right? They were fighting for a title every year, along with McLaren and Red Bull. So,
Yeah.
that question was always asked a lot. Did Schumacher make a mistake? Did Schumacher make a mistake? And then eventually retire, and then those questions increase. Did Schumacher make a mistake? Did he not want to win? Did he not have a winning mentality? And then we saw Mercedes win for next 8 years, right? So I think this question will be also are we asked of Lewis as well. But I mean, I think just the fact that there's barely any media reporting on car development that Charles Leclerc does, right? I mean, some people might say age, but you also hear a lot about how Max Verstappen, gives feedback to the Red Bull engineers and all that. So I don't know. It feels like maybe something Ferrari might have been disappointed by Leclerc. I mean, obviously they're never going to let go of him because he's a golden boy, right? I mean, Leclerc
Yeah.
is to Ferrari what Hamilton has been with Mercedes, right? Especially this dad wanting him to drive for Ferrari. I think they were leaving Ferrari, but yeah, I mean, I think the Charles Leclerc question will be asked more and more the longer he goes without a title, uh, or even consistent wins. Right? What he won one race this season, Monaco, and he's
Sold his soul
signed.
for it.
Yeah, he sold his soul for it. But yeah, we'll see how this pans out. I think definitely hoping that Lewis gets a lot of his favorite personnel. If they can get Bono, if Ferrari can get Bono, that will be huge.
Yeah.
Because Lewis has been like what for the last I don't know more than a decade they've been together, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that. Okay. But yes, going to the other teams, McLaren, uh, great race for them, but yeah, strategy
I think they
mistake.
missed the
I think.
chance again.
Yeah, and with like terrible strategy, dude. Like what the hell was that? Not the they ruined Piastri's race, and then they ruined Lando's race after that with softs. At least put on
Yeah.
use mediums. Man. Come on, mediums can last. Use mediums can
They
last
had a
30
fresh
laps.
set of mediums. They didn't have a used mediums. Fresh set of mediums.
What the hell were they doing?
I know. So
Like
basically,
Max,
they ruined a 1-2 for the team and now ended up getting a 3-4.
yeah, Max on mediums overtook them with ease, right?
Hards.
With ease. Sorry, Max on yeah,
Max
sorry, Max
on.
on
Yeah.
overtook Lando with ease. So
Yeah, I think McLaren, if we come to them, obviously another good race in terms of performance. The car is like probably the best
yeah,
race car at this time. But
yeah, easily.
again, strategic decisions have ruined, a short victory for them. They should have won this race. I think after they overtook the Mercedes, they were on course to
They
win
were
this
an easy one.
race.
They were an easy one
They
too.
had an easy 1-2 in the bag. But what happens next is they leave out Piastri. They do not double stack the cars. And
Yeah,
then
and then they put
after that,
half.
yeah, Piastri comes out like sixth, about 30 seconds behind everyone. and then
I mean, he did one extra lap, and he lost so much time in that one lap.
he lost 30 seconds in one lap.
Yep.
So basically, when he came to do his pit stop, I think Lando was like 2 or 3 seconds behind him. So imagine how much Lando had caught up by putting the
Yeah, yeah,
inters in.
yeah. By the time he
So
pitted, basically covered the entire gap.
exactly. So they ruined Piastri's race there, and then Lando's race. Obviously, as we discussed, they went to this wrong tire strategy. They should have put on a fresh set of mediums, and then would have had a better chance to get Lewis at. Yep, exactly. They definitely look like Ferrari from 2022, where they have a very good car, but then either driver decisions or strategy
Terrible
decisions
strategy.
ruin the team.
Terrible strategy. Yep.
So it's now like 4 or 5 races on the bounce where they've had the best car or the best race car, and they've let the race go either through driver mistakes or through team strategy errors. So I think this is like a new phase of McLaren. We've seen McLaren be at their glory days in the 90s and 2000s, and they've not won for a long period of time. So this is again them getting used to the feeling of being a top team in F1 again. So I would say this is a new version of McLaren, and it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get back to their higher standards, which we thought when we always think about what McLaren is in F1. So I think since they've not won for so long, it's going to take a bit of time for everyone to get be on top of their A game, like we see with Red Bull, Mercedes, sometimes Ferrari, and so on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, and Zach Brown was saying that, oh, we didn't double stack because, Piastri lost a couple of seconds waiting behind Lando, but he lost 20 seconds. He lost 20 seconds doing an extra lap. That is
Yeah,
classic Ferrari, man.
that's classic
Remember,
McLaren as well as in the last round.
remember Ferrari called Charles into pit, and then he enters a pit lane, and they're like, no, no, stay out, stay out, stay out. At Monaco.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I think McLaren definitely learned, but yeah, I mean, you can see at the end, Oscar did make up a lot of time. He ended only 5 seconds behind Lando. I think
Yeah.
Lando's just shows how crap Lando's tires were at the end.
I mean, Lewis had the same set of tires, and Lewis, held them on till the end, while Lando did not. So that shows the
Yeah,
class in different drivers
Lewis.
as well.
Yeah, but I
And
mean, Lewis is
McLaren
always
had a lot more downforce running on their car, which kind of ruined the tires as well compared to the other
true.
cars. So yeah,
That's true. I think both Red Bull and McLaren are more downforce. But also, Lewis is also known, to be the king of tire management in the current era. So, um,
yeah,
a lot of, I mean, obviously, a lot of similarities with Schumacher as well. He was also like a beast at tire management.
yeah.
He used, he used to nurse the car to victories out of nowhere. But yeah, I think Lewis has a lot of those characteristics. Um, yeah, and Max, man, Red Bull, obviously, Red Bull, Max finished 1.5 seconds, couple of laps, he's probably overtaking, with DRS. But yeah, I think Max, I think he got outdone by the car, by his own car. The car was crap. But again, Red Bull's strategy is pretty good, right? See, that's a difference, right? McLaren
Exactly.
had way hard, but Red Bull good strategy comes second, and McLaren come third, right?
Yeah, I mean the car definitely Red Bull not the quickest car this race, or not the quickest car over the past couple of races. So we do.
Yeah,
I mean, how exciting is it for F1 that we are seeing like 3 or 4 cars at the top fighting to win a race, which we probably
yeah,
had
and
not seen in the past couple of years. And now, in a couple of years, we're gonna have a new set of rules again. Just as we're getting F1 back to exciting times, it's gonna be
yeah.
again different in 2026.
Beginning of the season, we're like, oh man, it's going to be another boring season.
I know,
Max with 24 races out of 24 races. And what? It feels like forever this year won a race.
I know, right? We've had 6 different winners in 6 races now, so
Yeah,
it's
even when
crazy.
Max is it's such a close race, right? It's not like Max runs away 30 seconds. Like, I mean, if Max wins, sure, but if Lando is P2 with second and a half behind, yeah, give me more of that either.
Exactly. So 2025, second half of the season will be very interesting to see how close
Yeah,
the teams are, with each other. And 2026 might actually be a legit title fight between multiple constructors and multiple drivers. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see that. because Red Bull is like a one man team, as you can see right now with Max,
Yeah,
the only one,
I was
while you
just
have
coming to that.
Checo.
Sergio Perez, ladies and gentlemen, Sergio Perez, P17, 2 laps behind the leaders, not just one. And remember, this is Silverstone, where the lap is freaking long, right? It's like the lap is close to 100 seconds, especially in
Yeah,
those wet conditions. So he finished more than 200 seconds behind the leaders. And Max Verstappen's P2, the same car.
yeah.
And
We
sure,
definitely gonna get Perez's rumors again soon of him, like,
I mean,
being shipped out in
yeah,
case someone is
I know
available.
I know people who say Perez, had an extra pit stop like, Charles, but Charles was P14 and only 1 lap behind. Perez was, even if you remove the 20 seconds from a pit stop, he's nowhere close, man, nowhere close.
It's just been a
Uh,
rotten, kind of a stretch for Perez, right? Last few races. So there's
and
just more and more pressure on him at this point to perform. Anything which he was doing, anything which he was doing in the first half of first half of the season, where he was consistently getting podiums, but right now it's far, far from that.
you know what reports are saying, Aniket, about Sergio Perez? That after at the summer break, so basically what after Spa is the last race before summer, right? So reports say that after Spa, if Sergio Perez is more than 100 points behind Max Verstappen, he'll be sacked.
So Sergio Perez is 7 points or 6 to 7 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton right now, and we have Hungary next race. Lewis generally does well at Hungary, and other drivers, and George, also is just in front of a point ahead of Lewis. So we could legitimately see Sergio Perez down in like sixth or seventh place in the championship at the end of next
No,
race if he does
no,
not perform well.
no. So Sergio is sixth now,
So yeah, I mean eighth.
and
Sorry, eighth.
yeah, exactly, right. And no, but he's already way more than 100 points behind Max already. If
Yeah,
that rumor is
I'm talking about like he could legitimately fall down to eighth in the
right,
standings if he does not perform
so
well next race.
he is 137 points behind Max, right? No way he's narrowing that gap to less than 100. Even if Max
Yeah,
retires races, he's not making that gap up. That's how bad Sergio Perez has been the past few races, right? And yeah, I think Red Bull really have to take some calls because their lead in the constructors is narrowing. McLaren is just 78 points behind them now. Ferrari is less than 70 points behind them, or 71, sure. But what disappoints me is that they it is said that you know Red Bull will replace Sergio Perez with Daniel Ricciardo.
I read that as well. I had no idea why Red Bull wants to do that, because that
Yeah,
would
I mean,
probably end up being worse than right now.
weekend, right? Yuki's gonna beat him again. Yuki came 10th and Ricardo was,
Yep,
P15 and he was more than a lap behind. Yeah, I think if Red Bull just gets I think they should probably get Yuki. Just put
I
just put
agree.
Yuki and just put Yuki in the car. He's fast, he's a good driver. And he's waited a long time for the seat. I think Daniel would be a mistake.
I agree. I think Daniel is just being considered because of his name and because of his previous ties with Red Bull. But
Kinda
Yuki
likes it.
definitely deserves a higher seat in case Red Bull want to get someone up.
Yep. Yeah, I guess that's what it for the British Grand Prix. Yeah, I mean, across the field, Haas another good
Special
weekend.
special mention to Nico Hulkenberg right now, as you mentioned, Haas.
Again, right? Sixth, and then Aston Martin after a long time had a double point finish. They were seventh and eighth, and Stroll beat Alonso. Alonso, oh man. uh,
We'll probably
Williams,
need a separate discussion on whether Fernando Alonso is
yep.
still does still deserve to be in F1 or not based on his recent performances.
That's who was beating him. And come on. And Williams with another point finish. They were ninth, right? And Actually, this flew under the radar, but Logan Sargent was P11.
Yeah, but
That's
he finished
pretty.
like 20 seconds behind Alex Albon, who had a damaged front wing.
I mean, sure, but he finished ahead of a Haas of Kevin Magnussen. So, I'll take that. But yeah, another forgettable weekend for both Alpine, Kick Sauber, and Sergio Perez, and George Russell.
and
Both
and Charles Leclerc.
Charles every weekend is. I mean, I think we can write off the season for him. He has sacrificed his career for the Monaco win. But yeah, I guess that's about it from us, you guys. I think F1 cautiously seems back, but we have another boring track coming up next week. Oh, we have lost Aniket again. But we have another kind of slow track coming up next weekend. Not this, but the next weekend in Hungary. So yeah, we'll be back next week with a preview of Hungary again. And yeah, we'll see how the field changes and what new spiciness has come. And there's a lot of chatter around Max Verstappen and the like at Hungary too. So yeah, we'll keep all of you posted, and hopefully Aniket has a much more stable connection the next time we stream. So yeah, take care, folks. Do all the usual stuff, right? Like, share, comment, subscribe, and all the good stuff. Tell your friends. And yeah, join us next week again. We'll be back and see you. Keep safe, happy driving, and yeah, wear your seatbelts. Take care.